The Dover District hosted our first workshop with Dr. Phil Maynard on Saturday, October 27, 2018, and that was on the topic of radical hospitality. 3 months later, on Tuesday, January the 15th, 2019, we decided to have a Zoom conference to talk about what we learned and how we are all doing in our churches in order to apply some of the things that we learned from Dr. Phil. Now, here is a 35-minute video with highlights from that Zoom conference.
Gene, you're on. You're right on.
Okay, very good. Good evening, everybody. I just want to give you all a little bit of a synopsis of what we learned at the Radical Hospitality Workshop. And if you have this with you, it would be a really helpful thing for you to kind of look at and peruse as we are having this conversation. It is the Radical Hospitality packet that was given to us at our workshop that we had at Avenue. So, and what I'm going to be sharing with you, I'm not going to be reading this verbatim. I mean, that would take a long time. It was a 4-hour workshop. But I want to highlight to you some of the main points that Phil shared with us. And really those main points are the fact that when it comes to hospitality and the way that we connect with others in church, it needs to be something that is a plan, that is intentional. That in a lot of churches, we just kind of assume that people will, connect with us, that people will, become involved with things. That doesn't just magically happen, although it can on rare occasions magically happen. But we want to have an intentional process by which we connect with people and greet people and build up the body of Christ. That we are very intentional about the ways that we practice hospitality in the life of our church. And so I want to share with you some of the things that Phil talked about, that he talked about the platform level experiences, which these are the things that are like the bare minimum that people expect when we come into a church. Then after that, we talked about some of the things that we can do that go beyond the basic platform level experience of hospitality. So some of the platform level experiences from page 6 of the packet is, having parking lot greeters, entryway greeters, clean and uncluttered facilities, ushers, congregational greeting, connect cards, information packets, follow-up letters, and phone calls. Those are some of the very basic things that we would expect when we come into a church and for the first time. And then we have the things that are, the beyond the platform level experiences, like, reserving the best parking for first-time guests, having greeters outside of the building, maybe if it's raining, having an umbrella to help bring them in, have music playing when people enter the worship space to make it seem more welcoming. Allowing guests to remain anonymous. Don't say, hey, welcome Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're first-time visitors. Why don't you stand up so you can be recognized? That can put people off. To offer a warm public welcome, to offer refreshments at each service, to get rid of negative signage, like, things like no coffee in the sanctuary or no gum or, wherever the case might be. And excellent communication tools to help a person who's coming into the church for the first time to be able to familiarize themselves. And also to provide opportunities for connecting with people in hospitality. So like having a hospitality card where you would have refreshments and things like that, where you can build relationships and have conversations with first-time visitors, and also to provide opportunities for them, like to have people that are willing to say, hey, let me take you out to lunch and kind of get to know you on a more personal level. So that way, providing as many opportunities as we can to reach out and to connect with people. And also, you talked about guest follow-up. There are lots of different ways that we can do that. And we talked about on page 8, kind of giving a timeline of the things that we can do. Like on Sunday and Monday, we can email people, send them letters. We can provide hospitality gifts for our first-time guests. We can follow up with them through emails and texts, and just continuing to foster those relationships and providing opportunities to meet and greet with the pastor, to meet and greet with key leaders in the church. That we need to make sure that we have an intentional plan about the ways that we connect with people and provide hospitality. And so, it's important for us, it says here in member follow-up on page 11, to do attendance tracking, to see, how many times our first-time visitors visitors come, if we have people that we've not seen in a while, that we are having a systematic way of connecting with them. That it says we have follow letters for those missing.
Okay, we're having a little trouble with Jim's feed. Jim, can you hear us? There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, and I'm going to kind of close here in a second, but basically, what Phil lays out in this resource, if you don't have it, there are extras available in the district office of how that we can create an intentional plan for hospitality. And so it's important for us as churches to have plans, to have means of connecting with our first-time visitors, and to be able to do that in a very systematic and methodical way. And so, that's kind of a synopsis of what Phil shared, and invited this time Larry to be able to share where people can find these resources and what other supplements exist.
Can you see the ddslt.org website on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you do is you type in ddslt.org, and then that's where you'll go. And if you just come down here to, can you see the arrow moving?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. This is the Saturday, February the 9th event, and then just below that is workshop resources. If you click on that, it'll take you to a new tab, and this is the Google Drive for DDSLT. And these are the Phil Maynard workshops, and here's the first one, is hospitality. If you double click on that, it'll take you to a number of resources that you can download and use. Here's a folder of all the photos, and let's see a pretty picture of the banner. There's a banner. Where is the host of hosts? There we are. That's all of us beautiful hosts with our beautiful host banners. Okay, so you go up to hospitality. You can have the PowerPoint that Phil used. You can just steal this from him. He's allowed the Dover district to have a copy of his PowerPoint. We're not supposed to share this beyond the district, but here's the PowerPoint from the workshop. I'll double click on that, and you can see that he's got all the different slides that you can use. If you have Microsoft Office, you can open that up and edit it for yourself. Here's a resource on PowerPoint that's behavioral covenants. That was something he touched on during the workshop. This is something that I got from his website, and here he details how to make a behavioral covenant with your church members, and he has a beautiful resource there for you. Let's see, best practices, and Brad is going to talk about this in a little bit. If you click on that one, you'll see best practices. I don't know if you can look up here and see that on the top right hand corner, see where it has an arrow going down. If you click on that, you can download any of these resources onto your computer and for yourself. That's the beautiful thing about using Google Drive. It's the resource you can download and have for yourself. The best practices that I was going to talk about, these are all the things that Brad is going to go over, which are the best practices for hospitality in a local church. I created a DVD menu of and a set of DVDs that is available for anybody who attended the workshop. So we had about Kyung-hee, we had about how many churches we had represented? About 30 different churches? Or?
Yes, 30.
Okay, so I made 30 different sets of 2 DVD sets that record the entire workshop is on DVD. And here is the menu for that DVD. Here's disc 1 is the introduction, and Phil's story about a lack of hospitality. and then he goes on from point to point. I made it into chapters, and you can take each of these chapters and show them to your small group or to your church. You can use this as a resource because he's given us permission to. All right,
Wow.
so here's DVD number 2, and chapter 6 on the second DVD talks about connecting interviews. This is something I'd like to share with you. Let me go back here to this page. Back here on DDSLT, our website, if you come down here, you can see a video. Let's see, tell me if you can hear the sound.
The number one thing of all the things that I did as a pastor, the number one thing that I would attribute the growth of my church to was what I call a connecting interview. If you came to my church 2 times, after the second time as a guest in our worship service, I would contact you and I would invite you to join me for lunch or for coffee at some point during the week and ask you to give me about 45 minutes of your time. And I would sit down with you and I would not take any notes during this interview. I would just ask the person.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. So this gives you an idea of the value of some of these resources. All you have to do is go to ddslt.org and look where it says resources. Click on that, and you can find the Google Drive and download these for yourself. So,
Hallelujah! Wow.
Amen. Here's the flyer for the next workshop. I had the time wrong on this, and Amy Willie pointed this out. I had it 8:30 to 1:30. It's 8:30 to 12:30. And so if you see one that says 8:30 to 1:30, I was wrong. It was 8:30 to 12:30. And I repaired that. But this one is about, this is the flyer that you can use in your local churches to promote the event. And it's in PDF format, so you can email it, you can print it. And one of the features of this is that we register for free by email or phone now. It doesn't even cost to go, thanks to the generosity of the Dover District Office. And so that's pretty exciting.
Praise God. Thank you, Larry. This is excellent. Yep. I'm excited. Brad, maybe next. Brad, you are
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as kind of a means of reviewing for those who are there at the hospitality training and to kind of introduce those who are not in a more practical way, we're going to go through, as Larry hinted at, a best practices assessment that was a part of the paperwork, the packet we got at the training. It's on page 12 if you have it, or if you're a quick worker, you can find it from where Larry just showed us. But I'm just going to read through these things that the day of the training, and if you get this packet, we were all encouraged as churches to grade ourselves on each of these items, and you came out with a percentage grade for how your church is doing with hospitality. So after I read each one, anybody's encouraged that, you know, if your church is doing this or has tried things, or maybe if you have any hopes and aspirations, this is supposed to be a conversation starter, so please chime in whenever you can. So the first best practice is that a hospitality center offering refreshments is available before and after each worship service, encouraging conversations and the building of relationships. So is this something that any of you here on this meeting are you doing this, or have you tried anything related to this?
We have it at Zion's in Milton. We have refreshments after the service. And that's worked out nice, where when a new person has come in, we've invited them and we try to make them feel as welcome. It's just that it's in the fellowship hall, so we need to see if they will come that way. It's not like it's in the lobby or someplace easily accessible, but it's worked.
Good, and that is a hard thing that the church I serve, Millville United Methodist Church, the third Sunday of the month is their coffee and conversation Sunday, basically fellowship time afterwards. And we encountered a similar problem that you share, that when I got there, it was in fellowship hall and minimal amount of people would come. But I found out before it was actually in our sanctuary, and since we've moved it back, it's sort of sad to say, but if people can see it and have to walk a shorter distance to it, this has far more success. And also with that, that's a once a month thing, and I'm trying to sort of nudge our trustees towards kind of carving out some space in our sanctuary, because for a long time, all the business of the church happened in the sanctuary. Now that we have a new fellowship hall, that doesn't need to happen. So at our church, and I mean, we're a small building, that space is there for maybe not a highfalutin fancy type thing, but at least a dedicated area for a hospitality center. And one thing that's kind of helped us ease into this, that every year, in light of kind of the German sick season, we take out our meet and greet time.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, the first Sunday, it did exactly what Dr. Phil said, that more people, and in the couple years I've been there, stuck around just to talk to people and actually have more of a conversation than, see how many hands you can shake in 5 minutes thing during the service. So good. The next best practice is that welcome gifts are provided to first-time guests with an expression of thanks for worshiping with this congregation. Now, is this something, does anybody have any experience in this, or have you tried it since the training?
We do that at Conley's.
Oh, good.
And
what do you give out to your guests?
It's very welcome. The ones that have received the gifts, they're very welcome for the gifts. I mean, they're and it works out really well.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, everybody likes free stuff, and especially if it's wrapped up in, gratitude and a welcoming spirit. I think it goes over very well.
Yeah. We also have a union as well, and we give out, some free things about union, some brochures. We also have like some coupons to some local businesses and things like that, and some usually like a jar of jelly or some kind of like homemade baked good. And we provide like either we'll leave a note for that person if they're not home, or just to real briefly open up the door. I mean, they'll invite us in and give them the gift, and maybe have a brief conversation and pray for them and go. And it's very well received, and people appreciate the personal touch that comes along with that.
Doing that at Sailor's Bethel, we also have a little packet that, especially if they're new to the community, there's brochures on the town, the community, thing on the history of the church. We usually give them a Bible, and we have a group of ladies that make prayer shawls, and we have a verse with that, and we give that to them.
Excellent.
That's real nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. Like for us, my wife Erin found these kind of cool, trendy looking, just plastic bags, and it has the United Methodist Handbook in it, and honestly, a couple knick-knacky things, and a brochure for the church. So it's not something you don't want to, or you can't. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it to do it.
Yeah, it is.
Cool. The next thing is that a connecting interview is conducted by the pastor, staff, or selected leaders with guests coming for a second time to worship. The interview is to build a relationship, not sell the church. So is this something, are any of the churches here doing anything kind of related to this?
I want to.
I wish we did.
I admire this, and I'm shooting towards it. I'm having conversations with the leaders of the churches I'm serving about how we can identify newcomers or guests. That's what we're supposed to say, guests. And I think Connect cards are a big part of, in order to get the information into my hands, we need need to kind of combine a lot of these best practices. I think the Connect cards go with the connecting interview, like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, this is something that both kind of intrigues me and sort of challenges me. That what I couldn't help but think when Dr. Phil first said is that in my first month of the church, I tried to set up times to meet with all the members and regular attenders, and not many signed up for that. So I kind of laughed myself thinking if the people who go to the church don't want to talk to me, I wonder how much luck I'll have with guests. Well, no, I think it's a worthwhile thing, especially that angle to build a relationship, not sell the church. I mean, it's the right way to go, and it identifies, I think, something a lot of us would probably kind of fall into, of putting on that sales pitch either intentionally or kind of accidentally slipping into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of that kind of flows naturally from, you know, having these conversations. You know, I've tried doing this as much as possible, and like people say, well, what about this ministry that you have, or what about that ministry? And it provides an opportunity. Like, you know, we had somebody that moved into Bridgeville from Centerville, and we found out that when they were in Centerville, they were involved in the Bells Choir and the choir, you know, at their previous church, and they wanted to know about ours. And so I, you know, got them in touch with our choir director and our Bell choir director, and they took them around and gave them a tour and really made them feel welcome. And so there's an opportunity. I mean, not necessarily selling the church, but sometimes those things come naturally from that conversation that you have, that people want to know more. So it's very valuable.
Yep.
Yeah, in any way you can kind of let them set the tone and take the lead. That's why I try to approach any kind of these conversations, to let them kind of lead you where they're already thinking about or want to go.
There are other practices that, if the pastor is involved, it was shown statistically that they weren't as successful. Okay, but this is the one thing that the pastor can have a direct ministry with visiting guests and having a significant impact. So not only do they get to learn their name, which he said is huge, also in terms of referrals, in terms of other ministries of the church, and third of all is you just get to know that person a little bit better, in that you have a little bit better understanding of their background. I know this is true for myself. When I visit someone in their home, I get so much more information about them that I can remember who they are, because if I see somebody on their best behavior, all dressed up on Sunday, it's one piece of information. But if I can see them in their native environment, you know, it's like if I can see them at their home or even in a restaurant, you just like when people can let their hair down.
Wild.
Yeah, in the wild. You get to share, and you keep it short. It's only 45 minutes. He was very specific about this, and I think the final thing I'd like to say about this is that he specifically said this is the best thing that he has done in his pastoral ministry. That, you know, that he had the most success of all the other best practices. He kind of set this head and shoulders above the rest, and this is what commended this to me, and so that's why I made a little video about it and put it on the front page of our website. I think it's important.
Cool. The next one is that multiple means of contact are used over a period of 5 to 6 weeks following the first visit by a guest. I'll say right off the back, we probably connect with people in 2 to 3 means, probably in the 2 to 3 weeks following. So this is kind of upping the ante for us pretty far. But how do the rest of you follow up with your guests kind of more in the long term?
Right. I mean, for us, we use, you know, like that first time, you know, visit that we do. We also, you know, have the letter that we have. We also, you know, I've utilized for people that have Facebook, using Facebook and sending Facebook messages and things like that. Yeah. And I think that's been really a helpful thing. People have appreciated those little messages here and there. You know, email can be good too, but typically those are the main means that we've used.
Oh, cool.
I think the concept is that you have a number of different strategies that you spread out over time. And if you're using all of these strategies in a systematic way and as a part of a team, and I don't think one person can do this alone, that it takes a team of people working together, that it's like, and you have a pattern that you follow. Oh, we have a new first time guest, and we're going to give them a welcome gift, and we're going to chat with them. We have different things that we do, and then there's a connecting interview, perhaps a follow-up letter, an email, some other kind of contact, You can be creative. I don't think it's exactly the technique that's so important. It's the fact that you have several techniques over a period of time in which this is normal, and like this is the standard level of behavior that we all have in terms of when a person is a guest in our church, as we try to befriend them, because he told us they have to have 6 friends in 6 months, right? He said 6 months or forget it, you know? And he said, so that's the goal, is friendship, all right? But in the interim, you know, these are some of the steps that we can use in order to let them know that we're just paying a little bit of attention to them in an appropriate way, and that they get to connect with people, and hopefully, you know, I think that the kicker that that Phil was saying is like, they invited me to lunch, or they invited me to have coffee. You know, when you have that personal one-on-one invitation with somebody cares enough about you that they're going to say, oh, you know what, there's a group of us, or you know what, there's just me and my wife, and we'd like to invite you to lunch. You know, we'd like to get to know you better. Would you like to come with us? You know, are you new in the neighborhood? And, you know, wow, that says that you're open for friendship, and it's friendships, it's relationships that make people come back.
The next one, it goes back to training also, and it's that the congregation has been trained to welcome and engage in conversation those they do not know.
Oh,
do you all feel like you have a lot of people who are really trained and able to connect with people they don't know?
I want to do this. I understand that there's going to be a small group of people who are going to drive the leadership behind it. But everybody, it has to become a part of the congregational culture that and a sensitivity and a knowledge of an understanding of what hospitality is, how it works, and how the church actually grows. If the whole church does not have this information, they can learn. You can do a PowerPoint, you can do a presentation, you can do ongoing presentations from the pulpit, you can build it into the curriculum, you can have one Sunday a year in which, you know, you talk about your basics, and you talk about the standard levels, you know. All right, so training church members. Can you see this? Can you hear me?
Yes.
7 things that church members should say to guests during worship. Wow, if you just train them in these things. Thank you for being here. Let me help you. Please take my seat. Here's my email address. Please let me know if I can help in any way. Can I show you where you need to go? Let me introduce you to blank. And would you like, and this, he says, is the kicker, would you like to join us for lunch?
Yep. Yep.
And then he went on to tell the story of a greeter who asked him to move from his quote unquote seat. And of course he left, and he didn't come back to that place. And then he told the story. Remember, he told the story of his family, and an entire family got up for his family, and they got out of the way and let him have their beautiful seats in the back of the church, which is really prime real estate for church, right? I use the word visitors here. I should change that to guests, because that's visitors is a bad word. And then he talked about a mystery worshiper. So that's recorded from the video in which he talked about how to train church members. So stop share.
And my first struggle with this, and you all may have dealt with this too, is that before you kind of go into defining hospitality, for me, I know my first battle is going to be teaching my congregation what it means to actually be friendly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen.
Because I mean, I've been in ministry 8 years, and all my appointments, I've come to realize that people think friendly means basically not being outwardly a jerk to anybody.
Yeah, politeness. Yeah, they think politeness is friendliness when it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
So just kind of that core idea of there's effort required.
Yep.
Amen.
there's a couple of things on our agenda that we were supposed to accomplish. One is a little bit of a testimony about things that have worked that we've been able to learn at the workshop and bring back to our church. And so we want to give people an opportunity to share on that level. And then also, just after that, we want to promote the next workshop and talk a little bit about that. So what one takeaway did blessed your heart by going to this workshop?
I can say for Little Creek, I think I'm on the agenda to probably speak up at this point. Yep. One of the first things we did was the Connect cards, which we had done something similar to this several years ago, but we've had some new faces come into the sanctuary, and it's been very effective to have that information. We have a fellow that his ministry, he wanted to video the pastor's message, and that has went pretty good, and that's passed on to the shut-ins, and they have a website that they can get to and listen to the pastor's message. And I've stepped up my game as far as being a hospitality person, which we're a small congregation, we all know each other, and so we don't have anybody to meet and greets. And since our workshop, I've been that person every Sunday that I've been there, and it's went very well.
And we're preparing the gifts.
Yeah, we are preparing the gifts for new folks, and we've also placed. We're trying to standardize our Bibles, so we've increased brand new Bibles in the pews, large print Bibles that Connect. They can sit there and follow what's going on at the pulpit from the same version, and that's went over pretty well also.
Yeah, that's huge.
We've done all this since October meeting that we had for Radical Hospitality.
Praise
and
God.
We're still growing in it in many areas.
Amen. Praise God.
And we've had a gal that's had a new baby just before Christmas, so we created an area for a changing room for the baby and a feeding area for the mom, that they can go right outside the sanctuary and still be a part of the hearing the message.
Ooh. Go, John and Little Creek.
I want to talk a little bit about the one that's coming up. It's Saturday, February the 9th, 2019, from 8:30 to 12:30, and that's at Gethsemane United Methodist Church on Woodland Ferry Rd. And Dr. Phil is going to talk about authentic relationships, and this is the second in 6 workshops. And so we've learned a little bit about how we do workshops. We've learned that we're not going to charge, and so everybody can go. And so while we want people to register in advance, that we can prepare materials and have a sense of what kind of needs we need to take care of, it'll be free. And so you need to either email or phone the Dover District Office, and that's Amy Willie is the administrative assistant, and she's got her phone number and the email there. Of course, you guys are always calling the Dover District Office anyway. It's something that's on your speed dial, I'm sure. And if we also want to remind people that that in recognition for every congregation that sends a team to at least 3 of our 6 workshops, the Reverend Dr. Kyung Yi-sa is going to recognize that church as a certified discipling church. And this is a certification that she is going to award to churches that send teams to at least 3 of the 6. So we've had 1, and so there's still lots of room. And we also recommend that people buy the book, which is Shift 2.0, and we encourage people to, let's see if I can get the speaker view on here. There it is, right there. Okay, so we want to get people to buy the book and to read this in advance if they can, and this is not just clergy, but lay people too. So we hope that, you know, you'll participate in that way. That's like gold, you know, getting this and taking this home with people. They have a takeaway. And I think page 12 was the best part of this book for me, which was best practices. It really made me think. So yeah, that's
So who's
pretty
going
much,
to
that's
try
our
this out?
time.
Yeah.